constellation of Gemini is often seen as two females or two female warriors, two male warriors, two men embracing one another with a hug almost in a way. But now in June of 2026, conjunction of these two locations is occurring where they will be passing one another as they will look very, very close together when they're observed from Earth. Online, there's massive amounts of astrological and new age spirituality type of nonsense that states and promises that this cosmic event is going to bring God's codes, source codes, and it's going to enable DNA and enable telepathy, and all of these promises we always hear within the New Age 5D cult community. But this, of course, isn't true. The alignment of Venus and Jupiter is an astronomical event. Yes, of course, sure. But not a solution to spiritual problems, not a solution to humanity's problems, DNA unlocking, activation of psychic abilities, ingestion of source energy, oneness energy, like some booster shot. I think in general, we give so much, way too much power away to these sky, stars and planets, and give them all of the power, and we worship them constantly. Hopefully they'll bring us some enlightenment and access to 5D, 6D, 7D, whatever D it is. But the planetary conjunction is not a cosmic rescue mission. I don't understand why people in the New Age astrology are worshiping these planets aligning together, passing by one another, almost like God is coming to Earth to hand out free Starbucks cards and free ponies. Venus and Jupiter are much darker places, very dark places, very, very dark places. And that's not something I would ever recommend someone to meditate to. For my reptilian counterparts, I know exactly who lives there, and I'm going to talk about it in a minute, but it has nothing to do with love-light hysteria. Love-light hysteria of Venus and Jupiter is not even a funny subject. These are very two dark locations, and they play a very huge roles in our own Earth's collective consciousness, as well as connection to higher dimensional realms. We can't ignore that. We must pay attention to that and understand the reality of these locations, who resides there, and what kind of energies do they feed out. Venus is a late 4th density and early 5th density planet that hosts actual, physical, extraterrestrial, and extra-dimensional groups and races. Venus is very, very populated. But it's populated with small beings, small groups of entities. These races that are on Venus, they come as they go, they come as they please, they come whenever they want. It's kind of more of an open parking lot for somebody's approved races. Very similar to Mars, very similar to Moon, the spy satellite Moon. The three groups that are very, very, very important to Venus are Reptilian hybrid groups, Draconian hybrid groups, and Zeta groups. Not Zeta the way we see them, cute and funny with big black eyes, and they want to give us a hug. They have zero emotions. They're malevolent in my perspective, androids. But the little Zetas, they sort of do certain tasks when they're told to. The primary visitors are these two Draconian and Reptilian hybrid groups that come and sort of manage things. And this is really how it works with majority of the places within our solar system. Almost every place in our solar system. Almost every single place is controlled, managed, ruled, spied on, and observed by Alpha Draconian hybrid groups who hold much larger percentage of pureblood Draconian DNA. And then they go ultimately and report to the Draconian predecessors and larger races in management. So the purebloods, Draconians within the Draco system, or what's referred to as Alpha Draconian Empire. But not just within the Draco constellation, but also surrounding regions. Algo star, for example, the home of the Demonga, or the Capella star, or the Rigel star. And Rigel, I just did a video on Rigel. I was just connecting to a reptilian from Rigel, so he educated me some things. But Rigel is very, very powerful, extremely powerful place. I have a counterpart there now, and I was talking to him. He was educating me on two separate, very strong reptilian war races that rule Rigel, which I covered in another video. But secondly, as far as Jupiter is concerned, aside from the rings, Jupiter is the same. It's the same. It's almost every single place within our solar system and outside of our solar system, within our galaxy, and every other solar system within this small little galaxy we live in. I say small intentionally because it is small compared to other galaxies. It is all predominantly dominated, managed, controlled, observed by Alpha Draconian hybrid groups that are mid-range in rank. And then eventually they forward the information, their scouts, their intelligence, counterintelligence. These are military groups, paramilitary groups. I remember one of the Draconian hybrids is giving me a percentage, over 95% of the locations within the galaxy. So that's planets, stars, star systems, moons, rings, places we don't even have a name for, as he explained. It's all controlled by the Draconian Empire. And then they're hybrid groups, and then each hybrid group will have a hybrid, and then what they call subgroups. So a small percentage of Draconian DNA integrated with pureblood reptilian DNA, yes, that's called a subgroup. So even Kalask has a subgroup on Earth, and they range from New Zealand to northern Russia to Europe to even here within the United States and Latin America. So a lot of these Draconian hybrid groups are involved with all of these planets. We'll look out on Google Earth and we say, oh, look, Venus, Neptune, Jupiter. And they do small errands, they do small tasks, they use them for trading, they use them for laboratories, for things that I guess that they don't wish to speak about. I have some understanding of it and there's no need to talk about it, but yes, these are messenger races, Draconian messenger races, reptilian hybrid messenger races, all in the service to the Draconian Empire. And Venus and Jupiter, very, very fair to say, are surrounded by a multitude of different galactic regions, just filled, maybe too populated, filled with Draconian hybrid groups from one solar system to another, from one constellation to another. These are all hybrid groups. From Taurus constellation, where I have personal dear friends of Theta, Tauri, white reptilians, all the way to Boetes constellation, where I have a dear friend of mine in the Boetes system, to Hercules, to Merak, which is in the Ursa Major, Swan area within the Cygnus constellation, Izar in the Boetes constellation, Beehive star cluster within the Cancer constellation, even the Betelgeuse, both Betelgeuse and Bellatrix in the Orion constellation, an incredibly powerful and dangerous place, populated by reptilian and draconian groups. Even Campella in the Aroga constellation, even Algo star, so the home of the Demonga, the Alpha Draconian war race, one of the most brutal war races that there is within the Perseus constellations, which truly these guys dominate and fully oversee the entirety of Pleiades, almost the entirety of the Taurus system, the Taurus constellation, especially the Pleiades, so the seven sisters that we call it here on the Earth. And Demonga definitely is one of the most brutal and violent pure-blood Alpha Draconian races with some of the biggest wings I've ever seen on a reptilian. And they are the official winners of the Orion Wars. So they just sit west of the Seven Sisters, west of the area we call Pleiadians or Pleiadian area of this cluster of Seven Sisters. They also, Pleiades sits just below the Theta Tauri white reptilians who I channel. So I hear a lot of information about Pleiadians from these guys as well, but over 90% of all constellations are observed, managed, and overseen by the groups and races in alliances and in service to the Alpha Draconian Empire. So these are purebloods, these are hybrids, and then hybrids on every spectrum, 5% pureblood Draconian DNA, or 95%. But as far as the Empire is concerned, they have over 420 races, pureblood races, management races, over 200,000 hybrid races, and they control at 71% of the universe, 95% of this galaxy. They have close to 2 million races in service to them, directly, indirectly, from humanoids to zetas to reptilians to even insectoid groups. And I remember these two locations, this conversation I had about Venus and Jupiter with my Draconian hybrid counterpart, and I said, hey, like, what's going on with these locations, who lives there? I kind of know the answer. I said there's a lot of information on our human Earth internet that these are stations of some galactic federations and of course the answer was exactly what I expected. And he laughed and giggled, and absolutely none of those things are true in any way, shape, or form. In fact, I have the races of the Draconian hybrids and reptilian hybrids from Venus and Jupiter, but it's not something I desire to disclose. But I've asked in detail about these internet pieces of information, and some of the information about Venus and Jupiter even brought to my attention by my wonderful audience who I consider dear friends. So a lot of their concerns, a lot of their comments, a lot of their questions I take very seriously. And of course, the answer is always, well, these two places are given in laughter. There is no such thing as a humanoid race within Jupiter or Venus. There's no such thing as any motherships. There's no such thing as some human bases and etc. But with so many different internet and YouTube completely fabricated, bogus and fake, I would say fake, AI type of videos, AI renderings, pictures that are AI completely, and then ChatGPT written scripts of this apparent humanoid races dominating Venus, dominating Jupiter, Moon, and Mars. It's almost impossible for a viewer to get any authentic pieces of information. any authenticity. This is why no one's growing in the industry. They're listening about these fairy tale solutions, these some external saviors coming here and there, but that's not true. But Venus and Jupiter are much more darker places, serious places. These are malevolent, strongly malevolent, very powerful military and paramilitary races that are there. There is no such thing as a Pleiadian or Taygeta era and the rest of the Arcturus humanoid armies. That's not true. None of these things are true. But galactic space around us is definitely a very serious business, and it's not some Disney New Age spirituality mermaid story with unicorns and rainbows as depicted very often in the internet. So when people are misusing these terms of meditate and project your consciousness to Mars and also do it to the moon and go to Venus and Jupiter, this is highly inappropriate. Absolutely not suggested unless the person doing that has a very strong sponsorship and protection by approved races or races that are in sync and in an alignment with the custodians of these planets and the custodians of these stars.